Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pisces-Twin podcast. This is our podcast number 2. If you haven't joined us before, my name is Amy.
I'm Ciara.
And we are known as the Pisces-Twins from YouTube, doing YouTube video tarot readings. Today, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about past lives, and just some recollections of our own, as well as some information and a link to a really cool video that's on YouTube that, I mean, when I watched it, I was enthralled. And it's like, I believe it's like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And it is so completely worth watching. I mean, it'll just blow your freaking mind. Okay. So basically, when I was probably around 3 years old, 3 years old, I could remember a past life, and it was very vivid and very clear. And sometimes I would just be thinking I was still there, basically. If I was ever alone in my room, I would just like recall things, and I could literally see things in my mind's eye of it. And what I saw was soldiers, and they were very much looked like Egyptian soldiers. They had long spears and like a shield type thing. Some of them had shields, and they were marching, and some of them actually had loricas on. And you know, this was like the first memories that I had of it. And I could hear them marching and like see them marching. I just felt very connected to that. And I was like watching them and approving of them, or kind of thing, you know, like I was there watching them. When I remember, like, I could feel it, I could smell it. It was just really, really intense. And I was like a little kid, so I didn't understand what the hell was going on. Also, from my very first memories, I always felt like, what the hell am I doing here? It just felt very awkward, very strange. I felt very, very alone, like actually kind of scared, because I didn't understand what the hell I was doing here and who these friggin' people were around me, because I didn't feel myself when I was around them, and it felt very uncomfortable and just odd. And I felt like just like a total stranger in a strange land, sort of thing. So that was like the first start of my memories that I had. I can also remember a different lifetime where I was in a castle, kind of like a castle stone, and it was like a mountainous area. I guess you could probably compare it to Spain or France, parts of Spain or France. And I remember I was pushing like a cart, like a wheelbarrow cart. And I was just like, ugh, like I had like a fed up kind of feeling about myself. And I was just like, oh, get me the hell out of here in that lifetime. And I could see the people walking around me. I could hear them, you know, once again, I had like all my senses, and it was very obvious. It was like a clear sky. It was blue. And I had like a tunic on, that was, you know, like there was like chainmail or something underneath it. So I could feel that on my skin, and it was warm, and I could see what I was wearing, and it was white with like the little tunic thing that went over the chainmail was white with a big red cross on the front of it. And, you know, I didn't know what the hell that was. And then like time went on as I got older and stuff, and I recognized it. It's like kind of like Knights of Templar looking stuff. So I was kind of surprised when I found out later in life about that, what that was. That was something that I also picked up and remembered. I also can remember briefly a lifetime where I was like laying in a field. I don't know if I was dying or what the hell was going on, but everything had like a really golden glow about it. Like it was like early morning, but the sky itself looked kind of yellow. It didn't look blue. And there was like grasses, like some sort of grasses, kind of like wheat looking grasses all around. And there were like dewdrops on it. And the sun was like picking it up, and it looked like diamonds scattered just all over the place. It was really, really peaceful and really, really beautiful. So those were like some of the first type of memories that I've had. What about you, Ciara?
For me, starting off when I was younger, I don't really recall any specific, like, vivid memories like my twin does, but from the moment I was born, there were a couple interesting things that I was just automatically obsessed with. And now looking back on it, I feel like it is tied to some sort of past life. And so the first thing I would say is two names that I was obsessed with. The first name being the name Jack and the other one being Sally. For some reason, I was obsessed with those two names, especially Jack. And the other thing was a specific place, which I really had no knowledge of at all. I didn't know anything about it, and that was Cork, Ireland, for some reason, was a distinct place, and like Ireland in general, but specifically there for some reason, I was obsessed with. And then, of course, I was also majorly obsessed with the Fae and all of that mythology, especially mermaids and all of that. That was just something I was constantly talking about and reading about ever since I was young. And then considering looking at the whole span of my dreams, I would say a lot of what I feel might be tied to past lives comes from dreams that I've had, and makes a lot of sense considering the type of things that go down in my dreams, because it's some wild stuff. But there's also another thing that happened later on when I was probably in my early teens that leads me to think it was around that time that I started having a few more inklings and weird feelings that kind of I can look at now as being tied to something that occurred maybe in a past life. And this one is fairly specific. And I'm still, I don't know, it's kind of nutty to even talk about, but when I was in my early teens, I was writing a paper about Anne Bonny. And I didn't really know much about Anne Bonny other than, of course, she's a fairly famous, female pirate, one of the only female pirates that were ever in existence. And so I started researching and learning about her, and there's just very interesting things that were popping up, and I was so enamored with her and learning about her and feeling like this kind of weird connection to it. And it's funny because she was actually born in Cork, Ireland. Her birthday was March 8th. My birthday is March 2nd, so fairly close in birthdays. And then she actually moved, because there's a lot of myth, a lot of legend around what exactly occurred in her life. But essentially, there was a point where her father and her moved to the United States and settled in North or South Carolina. And then from there, she got involved with her first, major love, who was a pirate kind of dude. And so they went to, why am I forgetting the term? It's like what's in Pirates of the Caribbean. Barbados?
Was it Barbados?
No,
Bahamas.
Yeah, like around the Bahamas, like the major port where a ton of the pirates were hanging out. So they went there, and there was an awesome story about her. And
why don't you tell him his name?
Oh, that's not the one I'm talking about. That's not
his name?
It was her first dude that she was with.
Okay.
And so that's what brought her there. And then he was getting all uppity with her because she wanted to be Wild Woman and was trying to control her. And they actually went in front of a judge or something, and she was saying that she would not be whipped and sold like cattle or something along those lines. It was a brilliant line. But from there, when she's spending time in this area, she encounters a very unique and apparently very eye-catching, because literally that was his kind of calling card, was sort of the crazy fashions that he would wear. Pirate whose nickname was Captain Jack.
Legit. As in Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. That's
where they definitely got it from. And so she up and bailed the other dude who was, trying to tie her down, and went off with Captain Jack. And from there, they, traveled, they did their stuff. And then Anne Bonny eventually met her, best friend, who was also a female pirate named Mary, But so I was learning all that, getting obsessed with it. And what kind of made me even more suspicious of me possibly having some sort of connection to this, to these individuals, or even maybe potentially like a past life, like that, was there was a very special pirate exhibit that was happening here in Virginia.
Yep.
And they had a ton of great stuff and a bunch of great information, like
the largest pirate treasure in existence.
Yep.
That you could look at, and man, was it like
so cool.
Like you couldn't. I mean, they had so much security around it. It was insane. And contrary to what people believe, it's not gold. It's silver. Mm-hmm. So, because I think they said something about like gold was really rare. Like, that wasn't something that,
wasn't very common.
No.
And so as we're going through the exhibits, we get into the section where it's talking about, how they killed the pirates and how they jailed them and all that stuff. And that kind of goes into even more the mythos about Anne Bonny, because nobody's quite sure exactly what happened to her, because there was an event towards the end of their kind of high period of the pirates where they basically had an awesome raid or something on like a British ship, and they got a bunch of booze or whatnot. And so all the men on the ship were partying and drinking while Anne and Mary were just kind of like watching them being idiots. And sure enough, they get, set upon by like the British Navy and captured and imprisoned. And so nobody's quite sure. They're pretty sure Mary died in prison. But it doesn't really know what happened to Anne Bonny, either that she, passed away in the prison as well, or that she was hung, or that she potentially escaped or was released and went back to North Carolina, where she ended up getting married to somebody and having kids and just kind of doing away with the whole pirate life thing. But again, nobody knows for sure certain. But as we're going through this exhibit, we're getting into this section, and sure enough, there was a plaque on the wall that was referencing Captain Jack and how they hung him, essentially, which was like with a kind of like Iron Maiden kind of like cage thing that they hung them from. And when I read that and when I saw it, I had a very, very intense emotional reaction to it, which never usually happens to me. And so it was just very, very odd.
Yeah.
But that's one of the weirder kind of intense feeling things that has happened to me.
Sorry, guys.
In relation to potentially something that was past life related. It would also line up, I have some inklings that potentially a past life I was pretending to be. I was either a man or that I was pretending to be a man, which would line up also with the Anne Bonny kind of pirate life, because that's what women had to do if they were going to be on a pirate ship. They had to pretend to be men because it was considered bad luck to have a woman on a ship.
Yep, it was.
So that's... I have some more things, but I'm going to pass it over to my Pisces-Twin.
Well, I'm going to go ahead before I tell you my later recollections and when I became a teen, what was a recurring thing that happened to me. I'm going to give you some examples. I looked at several different websites trying to find exact things and stuff, and this one sums it up just as good as any other one on lonerwolf.com. I'm looking at it right here. I just brought it up. It's like some signs, 12 signs your soul is reincarnated. Number 1 is recurring dreams. So if you have repetitive dreams that, sometimes might be traumatic or, they bring about fear, and they're repetitive dreams where it's like, it's so effing realistic. You can smell things, you can feel things, and you're seeing it from a perspective, like you can look down at your hands and you can actually touch and hear and see things, which is something that happened later to me as well. With the Egypt thing, definitely. Definitely pay attention to those, because they're very good signs, that, especially if it's someplace that you haven't been in this lifetime, but yet every stinking detail of the area, and you could be like, oh, I go down this way and there's such and such or whatever. That's like a sign. Okay. So another one is like out of place memories. especially with children. Okay. And we're going to get into more about that. Usually when you're a kid, this is the first sign. So if anybody out there has children and your kids come up to you and they start spouting off stuff that to you just like kind of blows your mind and you're like, this makes no sense, or it sounds like a relative of yours that's passed on or whatever, pay attention, because they're literally recalling a past life. This is no joke. Okay. So out of place memories, like young children who have had out of place memories that prove to be oddly accurate in detail. Okay. And it could be literally, stuff that, it's just odd. Like my son is like this. Okay. He can recall past life, and it's effing traumatic. One of the ones that he can remember where he's like hysterically crying. And, I had to work with him for a while and help him to, realize that he has to forgive, and he has to forgive himself for what occurred. And he also has to let it go so that he can heal in this life. So that's part, and in the video we're going to put a link to, it literally talks about that. Like when you have a traumatic experience from a past life that, you died traumatically, the best thing to do is to forgive and recognize it, acknowledge it, and then forgive. And it helps to heal. Like you literally have to heal mentally from that trauma so that in this life, you don't carry that out again, kind of thing. Okay. So number 3, you have a strong intuition. How many of us out there have strong intuitions? Really, all of us do. It's just whether or not you listen to it or not. Okay. Deja vu is another one. Okay. If you've like experienced, and this doesn't have to be past life necessarily either for this, but but when you go to like some place that you've never been before, okay, and then you show up there and it's like you get creeped out because you feel like you have been there before. Definitely one of the places I was looking online at Google Street View at St. Andrews College in University or whatever in Scotland. And it's really weird because it's like the sister brother school, whatever the hell you call it. What do you call that? To William and Mary, which is right down the street from us, which is where Ciara graduated from. And, I just wanted to see it because, I just had this feeling I needed to look at it for some reason. And when I was looking at the street view around it, I got creeped out so bad because it seems so frigging familiar. So I don't know what the deal is with that one, but I did say I was in a castle, but it's not like, I don't think that was like really mountainy around there too much. That was more like an ocean thing, but definitely I have memories of oceans. So who knows? So anyway, you're an empath. That's another one. A lot of empaths, like people who are very empathic, like really empathic, they, your soul has undergone a lot of different reincarnations usually when this happens. Which gives you the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes very easily because you have been in somebody else's shoes. Precognition, when you just know shit. Future sight, second sight, which is, I'm telling you, that has been ramped up hardcore for me lately. I mean, I will dream something, like I have my guides going over something with me in my dreams, and then I wake up and boom, it happens the very next day. And that has been something that has been really intensified lately. I don't know why, but it has. Okay. So retrocognition is the opposite of precognition and refers to the ability to obtain information not usually available about past lives. So these past lives could be in your own lifetime or sometime in the distant past. So another one, you feel older than your age reflects. Okay, that is so my son. Okay, that boy has got the most insane gifts for just knowing shit. When he was 5, he sat there and told me exactly how a business is structured and how he was going to have a chain of this and do this, and he was going to have all these people working for him, and that he would go and he would open up one restaurant and then he would come in and run it for a while, and then he would hire other people to come in and take care of it and take over, and then he would go do another one. I mean, he was like telling me the whole entire process of exactly how things are set up. And I just was sitting there with my jaw hanging open, like, how the fucking hell do you know this? And for a 5-year-old boy, That's just odd. Plus, he never was into like kid stuff. He wanted to do adult stuff. He carried around an LSAT book in the bookstore, and I couldn't get it away from him. Okay, we had a little hiccup there. My computer...
Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, I know. My computer totally crapped out. That's really weird because we were talking about that. Anyway, to get back to it, he basically carried around this book in the bookstore. He's always talked about being, you know, a businessman and a lawyer. So I thought that was really interesting. So yes, you know, I've always felt like I was the parent in my family, more so than my parents were. It's been a wild ride. Okay. Let me just put it that way. So number 9 is have a great affinity for certain cultures, time periods, or environments. Yes, most definitely. Like with Ciara, it's like, you know, she loved the pirate thing. Definitely for me, you know, I've always been obsessed with Egypt. Okay. Another place would be, you know, Europe. Definitely Norway. Abso-friggin-lutely Norway. And Japan. Okay. And we have a little interesting story about that one, don't we? You want to tell it?
So, I would definitely say that I have a strong attraction to Japan as well, because some of the stuff that I've gotten into in my life, and just also things that I have, you know, interesting kind of phobias about, are kind of things that relate to Asian culture as it is,
and
like
number 10 here is unexplainable fears or phobias. So there you go.
I wouldn't say it's like a full-blown phobia, but I just have this thing where it's like I cannot have mirrors sitting out, especially at night. They have to be put away and covered, because I just don't like it. And mirrors just, I don't know. I have a thing about mirrors. So that kind of, I know that in, you know, Asian cultures in Japan and China, they have a thing about mirrors as well that's very similar. So who knows? But I definitely feel like me and my twin have shared more than one past life together, and one of which was probably in Japan, or, you know, the Asian continents as it is. And that
I definitely feel it's Japan because of what I have an affinity for and what turns me on when it comes to that. So yeah.
And I was most likely one of her, like a warrior or a protector for her, I'm pretty sure. That's just the feeling that I get.
Yep. And that's why she's so bossy nowadays. Totally. And the Anne Bonny thing, completely her. Okay. No doubt about it. She is saucy as hell. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I also had a past life, because I just have, so one of the things that the video that we're going to be linking in the description talks about, especially with young children, is a lot of times there are birthmarks that are related to, you know, maybe wounds or something they received in a previous life. So what's interesting for me is that I have a very unusual birthmark on me that's on my wrist, and that my wrists as well as my neck are two areas that I have. Again, I don't know if you want to call it a phobia, but like, I'm not a huge fan of them being grabbed or touched or anything like that. And I feel in some ways that is due to maybe a past life, because I do feel like I had some sort of past life that was definitely in relation to like witch trials or something like that. Something that has to do with the church and me not liking the church.
Me too. And yep.
A lot of times when I go inside churches, I don't feel very comfortable.
I hate it.
I can't explain, and it makes really no sense, because it's like I have no reason to feel uncomfortable, but I just do.
I have to say, it's like certain churches for me.
Yeah.
Some churches I go in and it's like, oh, there's a decent vibe. It's no big thing. But then other ones I walk into, I'm like, hell no, get me the F out of here. You know, no way. And speaking of that, when I was growing up, I was raised in a household where, you know, I was raised Catholic basically. And it's like I was made to go through all their, you know, the first communion, the confirmation thing and all that stuff. And I was like not into it at all. Okay. I mean, when I was like doing the first communion thing, I could give a rat's ass because I was like second grade. So it's like, so what? You know, you get to wear a pretty dress and, you know, walk down an aisle. Whoopie-de-doo, right? But when it came to the confirmation thing, okay, the guy who was doing it, I can't remember, what is he? He's like was he bishop or something? I can't remember what the hell his title was, okay? But when I was like walking up to him, I like locked eyes with this guy and I'm like, oh yeah, I know you, bitch. And I don't like you. And the way he looked at me was the same. It was creepy as hell. It's like I just was like, yeah, you, I don't like you. No, you know? And it's like, I swear to God, that like does not happen very often, where you just like, it can happen with love too, where you just like lock eyes with somebody and you're like, oh my God, yes, I know you, kind of thing. But this was a total hatred, like I want to kill you and snap your fucking neck thing, okay? I did not like this guy. He gave off a shitty vibe, and it was just, I know that I know him. It's like I felt like I've known him, and we were at odds in a past life. It was just not good. You know, which is funny because, you know, I had actual family members that were, one of them was a nun, and I fucking loved her. She was great. She was the sweetest, most kind woman, and she was always smiling and always happy. So, you know, I'm telling you, it's got nothing to do with the religion thing. It's got to do with, I know you from a past life thing, and you're a dick. So there you go. I just said that, and I'm sure I probably ruffled some feathers by saying that, but too bad. It's the truth, okay? So, like, when it comes to the fears and phobia thing, it's like, I have weird fears and phobias that don't make any fucking sense. One of them is cockroaches. But I've gotten over that since living in Virginia, considering there's a shit ton of them, like in the woods, because they're wood cockroaches. They're not the disgusting, what is it, German? Yeah, they're not
German cockroaches are the pest ones. Wood cockroaches are actually a natural beneficial insect that they're decomposers, so you want them around. Yeah. It's just that they're attracted to lights, and so they'll come into people's houses during the winter because they're cold.
Yeah, so, but, you know, I've gotten over that fear, which is kind of cool. The other one, believe it or not, which I'm slowly getting over as well, especially considering what's been going on, is fucking robots. So, yeah, okay. When I was a little kid, I think it was Lost in Space, I think. Like, something was like that was on TV, and it was like the old shit, the old version from like the 60s or whatever. Oh. And that freaking robot thing, they look like a giant walking trash can with spinny things in the head or whatever. That thing scared the holy shit out of me. I mean, I was just terrified of that thing for some reason. And so, and like Terminator, when that came out, like, you know, that scared the crap out of me as well. Now I've gotten used to it, but it's like, hello, there were no robots in the past lives, you know, in past, you know, Earth's history that we know of. But could it have been someplace else that I was in contact with these things? Yes. Okay. Because if there's any intelligent life out there, it's going to be way more intelligent than us, way more advanced than us. And I can guarantee you it's out there. Okay. I sound like fucking Fox Mulder right now, but whatever.
Truth is out.
So, and that brings me to number 11. You feel as though this earth is not your home.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Hello, honey. I literally get pissed, and I'm just like, I'll get mad and I'll be like, fucking earth problems. You know, that's like what comes out of my mouth, because it's just like, I have a love-hate relationship with earth. It's like, I love it and I want to protect it because it is my home now. But I also absolutely despise what goes on here. Okay? I fucking hate it. It like enrages me beyond belief. It just frustrates the hell out of me. I think people are just, they do the most idiotic things, and for what? It just doesn't make any sense. It's not, what do I want to say? Cohesive? I don't know.
Harmonious?
Yeah, it's just dumb. I mean, whatever.
Speaking about, because I'm trying to think of any other weird fears or phobias that I had. And really, as a child, like, things did not scare me. I was not easily scared by anything. But there were two particular movies that scared the crap out of me. And one of them, when I first watched it, was The Grudge. Oh, which, God. Speaking about Japanese, because that's a very now that I watch it, I find it actually pretty funny, just because I've consumed enough of that kind of, you know, media to be used to it. But there's just also, it's like they always have them in like attic spaces and crawl spaces like that, and I don't like attic spaces and crawl spaces like that either. That's another weird thing for me. I don't like it. The other movie that scared me was Cat's Eye, but I don't really think that has to do with necessarily anything past life. It was more just the context of the one particular story within Cat's Eye, because I was a young girl who had very close bond to a cat, and then there's this creepy little clown thing coming out of the wall trying to suck her breath out.
It's actually like a troll or something. I don't know what it was.
It's
some
a
kind
jester.
of fae,
It's
okay?
it's a jester.
Yeah.
It's like a little jester monster thing. But it's just,
if you haven't seen that, you should watch it. It's
a
a Stephen
great
King
movie.
flick, and Drew Barrymore is actually the one who stars in that one. As a
in the
little kid.
third last story in it.
That's a cool little trilogy thing by Stephen King.
Speaking of
stuff.
fae, I would definitely say that I think a lot of the past lives I probably had were not on Earth. They were in probably other realms, because later on in time, I had the only dream that I can recall where I actually died in the dream. And it was taking place in a place that was definitely not Earth, because, I'll get more to that later.
Well, I definitely have stuff about that as well, especially considering who comes around me and whatnot and all that. And my quote unquote guides, especially one of them. Holy shit, you guys. But Ciara has always teased me. Excuse me, I'm like choking on this. She has teased me for a very long time, and she constantly is calling me a changeling. She has called me that.
She is a changeling.
Yeah,
It's so funny that we're talking about this, because I've actually had a lot of you guys recently reaching out and talking to me about, the fae, and feeling like you resonate with that. And again, I can relate to that, because again, as a child, that was just something I was massively attracted to, and was like what I just liked a ton of. And I could kind of, looking back on it, I think sense a lot of that kind of energy, which is part of why I started calling her a changeling, because it just,
and the way I was treated growing up.
yeah,
and stuff,
her
so.
family situation, it just made sense.
Yeah.
To be a changeling, because just it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
So I'm going to go, before I get into that, because oh my God, it's just so intense. I want to go back to when we were talking about, like, you have like affinities, and there's certain things that like you can't explain, like things that you like why do you like this? It's like you'll like something so random and so strange, and it's like you don't even understand why you like it. You're like, why do I like this? This is so effing weird, for me growing up. And it's like, I went to school in Southern California. Okay. And back in, that time, it was all about, the surfers, the blonde surfers or whatever. And I was like this chick over here on the other side going, dude, I like the brunettes with the brown eyes and the intense eyes, like the really beautiful almondy shaped eyes, this is what I like. And people thought I was a freak because I liked that. It's like, what? I had pictures of, where like most people had like these cute blonde boys all over their wall, or surfery type dudes. I had Johnny Depp on my wall. I had John Taylor of Duran Duran all over my wall. Just anybody that looked, different like that, or, could be like of, kind of exotic-y type, Asian looking descent, whatever. I always did not like, the standard, what do you call it? Colgate smile type
Ken
dude.
doll?
Yeah, no fucking Ken dolls for me. Thank you. Okay.
I never liked the Ken
Even the
dolls.
blonde guys now that I'm older, they don't look like that. They're no. So, that was like what I was really attracted to. And it's kind of funny because in another memory I have from like the first ones, which, I call it Egypt, but technically it could have not been Egypt. It could have been possibly a different place that, the settlers of Egypt came from. If you're a starseed, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. So, anyway, what I remember is I was a female. Okay. Definitely a female. I was petite, on the petite side. I was young. I was kind of skinny, and I was sitting on top of this rubble. Okay. And when I say rubble, it looks like there was either some kind of war or something that had just happened, or there was an overthrow in power, or something had occurred where they were destroying temples and they were taking them down and they were constructing something new. Well, if you go, and this is a fact, they did this shit in Egypt, depending on who came into power at the time, where they would destroy whoever was popular, like whoever the pharaoh was at the time, whoever god that they were associated with became the popular one, and the one that, was the now in god or goddess to worship or whatever. So when there would be a struggle, I mean, and think about it, Egypt's thousands and thousands of years old, you guys, okay? It's not some little short ass time period. We're talking centuries, all right? So, I'm sitting there on this rubble, and I had climbed up onto this rubble, and I was sitting there just, being a young girl, just doing my thing. And I could look down at my legs, and I was like squatting kind of on this thing. And I had like kind of like this white, like linen-y, gauzy kind of dress like thing on. And there was a piece of it that was like wrapped around my head or something. And I was sitting there just looking out over this, like the all the commotion going on, and I could hear all the noise. It was like a very busy area, like city area, and I could hear people talking and shouting, and I could smell the smells in the air, and I could feel the sun on my skin, and it was just like it was amazing. And there was planted like kind of like palm trees, like lush kind of foliage like that, and like kind of tropically looking shit here and there, like that it was put there on purpose. The places where there was buildings all around, and they were like, typical like kind of like mud type hut, like square looking buildings, which was common, in Egypt. And I was sitting up there just chilling. And my guardian or guard was a female, and she looked like she had been through some shit. Let me just put it to you that way. And her skin was dark, and she had a wig on. And it was very obvious to me that it was a wig, and they wore wigs in Egypt, and it was like a shorter wig. And she had she was wearing a lot of red and black. And she had like a weapon. She had weapons on her. Like there was one like near her hip, like a sword. And then she had like this spear thing like in her hand, which, remember what I told you, like when I was very small, that's what I could remember. And it looked like she had like kind of like a lorica on, like, which is very Roman. So I don't know if this was like maybe, possibly, something that happened with the Romans, because the Romans came in there, okay?
A lot.
And so, and there was Greeks and, the Romans and
it's the Mediterranean.
It's the Mediterranean, right?
Egypt was a huge, huge cultural hub. This is something that a lot of people
don't get.
Especially, I'm going to just say it, in America, because certain school systems just don't dive deep enough into world history. And when you start learning about world history, especially in the Mediterranean area and the Middle East, it's like, and into China, it's like that whole area was a massive booming cultural mecca kind of area with tons of people, tons of trading. It wasn't, it didn't become that way just because white people got there kind of thing.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
It was there. It was like that for a long, long time before, the white people showed up.
White people.
The white people.
Those damn white people. Anyway, so no. Anyway, so she was pissed at me because I had snuck off. And she was literally yelling at me in the language, okay, that we spoke then. And she was like, psst, psst, hey, and she was going like this. She's like yelling at me, like, get your ass down here, basically, in that language. I wish I could freaking remember exactly what she was saying so I could tell you. But she was like rushing me to hurry up and get down, because if anybody saw me up there, it would have been bad, okay? It would have made my family look bad, or for a woman of my standing or whatever, it wasn't good for me to be doing that. So she was rushing me down, and like I came down off the thing, and she like grabbed me by the arm, and she was like, kind of scolding me, like, don't do that. And then she's like, you got to go. And so she walks me up like we're walking through the city and it's real busy and there's people all around, and she's like watching and, you know, paying attention to the crowd because obviously she's a guard. And she takes me, there's this long line of women, and they're lined up in front of this like kind of like throne, little like makeshift kind of like table, like altar thing. And there on either side of this young guy who was sitting there were women, and they were like priestesses, and they had jugs, like jugs, like pitchers of like water. And then the other one, like there was like several of them. There was two on either side like that. And then there were women who were like working with like herbs and stuff, like these like little bundles of herbs. And they would place them, like a woman would approach and she would put her arm out, and like he would lay that like kind of like at her wrist. And then he would take, there was this knife that he pulled out, like an athame kind of thing. And it was stunningly beautiful. And it was sharp as fuck. And it was very shiny. And it was like the hilt of it was totally encrusted in lapis and all kinds of like, you know, stones. And it was very intricately detailed. And I remember it was like striped. Like there was gold and the lapis, like striped, like around the handle. It was so pretty. And my guard, like, walked me up next to him, and he like looked up at me, and it's like those eyes though, okay? I will never ever forget those eyes. And they were brown and very, very intense. And he had black hair, and I remember what was going through my head was, oh, he's very handsome, and he's a little on the skinny side, but he's gonna look good as he fills out, because like we were both younger, okay? And, you know, I remember him just like looking at me like, you know, giving me this look. And it was just like this look like, oh, just wait until later, lady, kind of thing. It was weird. So he would take these bundles of these herbs, and it looked like bay leaves were like, you know, laurel or something was in these. And he would take this knife and he would just go whack, and he would like crack the freaking thing open over the woman. Like, I don't know if it was like a fertility thing or some kind of, I have no idea. Okay. I don't know if there's any kind of ritual like that that's written on the walls or anything. I have no idea what the hell that was going on there, but I would assume, and it felt like it was some kind of fertility blessing or some stuff like that, because it was all women. So he was like whacking these things, and then they would walk off. Well, as I'm standing there, I guess I distracted him or something. So whack, he hit it, and it cut the woman, the next woman. And the priestesses freaked the fuck out. And they like, two of them were like hauling off the woman, getting her away from him as quickly as possible. And then the others that had the pitchers were like bathing him in this water over his head. And they like tilted his head back, and they were like running it through his hair and like washing his hands. And he was laughing because he thought it was so ridiculous, like what they were doing, and they were making such a big deal. And I remember like his head back, and I could hear his voice, and like he was like chuckling, because I guess, and it was kind of like ticklish, kind of, I guess, because it was like trickling. And he like ran his hands through his freaking hair because it was wet, and he was like pushing it down, and he like put his head down, and then he brought his head back up, and then he was just like staring at me again. And I was just like, you know, like he like blew my mind. Okay. That's just like how I felt about this person. It was just like, I thought he was the bee's knees. He was just like, oh my God, this guy is intense and gorgeous, and I fucking love this guy. So that's just like what I remember and how I felt. But I remember it so distinctly. Every sound, every smell, every noise. And it's weird because I could hear multiple noises, just like as if you're standing in a city where there's lots of noise going on. If you just sat there and you closed your eyes and you listened and you could hear every little detail, I could literally hear every little fucking detail, like as if I was there. So, you know, that explains the brown-eyed thing, definitely, because those eyes were like unforgettable. I mean, and I've always been attracted to anybody with that kind of a shape of eye now. It's like, it's a very distinct shape. It's just gorgeous. So, yeah. And that explains like why I like the dark hair so much. because that was a very prominent life. Whatever the hell happened there, I'm telling you, it was something that affected me, or it was like my favorite life or something, I guess, because I had never forgotten it. And I just felt very, like, a lot of intense, like, emotional feelings about it, I guess. So that was that one. I mean, and it's like, I remember when, I was recalling what happened, and I was like, like coming to, and sitting there in my room, like shaking, freaking the fuck out. And I was so absolutely aware and awake, and my senses were so incredibly sharp. Like, after I remembered it, I just knew that wasn't normal. It didn't feel normal at all. Like, that was something else that I just experienced. So it was crazy. So
a particular dream that I had, again, this is the one where it's the only dream I've had where I died in the dream, which is very, very weird because I've never had that happen. But it took place in a world that was so not Earth, because everything was like as if you took the saturation button on a camera, like you're editing a photo and you turn up the saturation all the way up. That's how everything looked. And there was like huge plants everywhere, because there was a portion of the dream where I was sitting on this cliff with another person, and we were looking at it because we were discussing things, and it was just the most amazing sunset because the sky was like literally pink, and everything was just like a blaze of just super bright colors. But essentially what this dream was this whole kind of like totally fantasy-like world with all of these, interesting different people. And I was kind of leading a war of some sort of weird kind of battle was occurring. And I had a team of people. And particularly, I remember two of the people who were the closest to me were two males. One was like a scholar kind of type. He was like very smart. He knew a bunch of stuff. He had glasses. Yeah, this is a very weird dream. And the other one was a thief who, like, I tricked or something in order to get him to join the cause or whatever it was. And there was like another group of people who were also fighting against the same group, this particular person, and one of their generals was coming to our camp or something to discuss stuff, and that was the person I was sitting with. And I have a distinct memory of what he looked like. And again, they came in on some weird flying animals or insects or something strange like that, but he had tattoos on his face that I remember. But then the dream kind of skipped after that portion to later on, like the next day when the battle was happening, and there was this lake, a lake that had black water, and there was a tower in the middle, and the tower was what needed to come down because it was like it was messing with how people could get closer to certain troops or whatever. And so there was a stone bridge that went to it. And so I was going across this stone bridge, and some of it was in rubble, some of it was lower. And there was a woman who was like, who we were kind of fighting. She was one of the leaders on the other side of the team. And she was like all white hair, white skin, very like ethereal looking. But she was saying some weird kind of stuff to me about how they wanted me on their side for some reason. And inside the lake, inside the water, were these weird, kind of weird wormy like sea snakes or something that were vicious, and if anything fell in the water, they would be like piranhas and completely strip it. So what she did is, like, to prove her point of how I was supposed to be fighting on their side or something, was she took like a piece of cloth off of me and threw it in the water, and the creatures completely like swam away from it. They recoiled from it or whatever, but I wasn't having any of it. And so we were fighting, and I ended up like, I had some giant swords or something, they were very distinct swords, and stabbed her, but in the process ended up stabbing myself and dying. And I remember laying there on this, this stone bridge thing, and hearing and seeing my like companions trying to rush towards me, and then everything just faded to black. And that was like how I woke up from this dream. So again, it was the only dream that I've ever had where I died in it. So I don't know. Maybe that means something.
So to bring about like another thing that is real fascinating, and we've got quite a bit of proof on this one, is back before I became pregnant with my son, I started having, and like I said, as you heard, I'm into the dark haired guys. Okay. I like guys that look like they're not necessarily white guys. Okay. And they're, or very, they have features like that. Even if they are like, a typical Caucasian dude, they'll have more, like, they look like they have some like mix of, something going on in there. Okay. I don't like boring Ken doll types. All right. Clearly. But this is so weird because before my son was born, I started having these weird ass recurring dreams. And in them was this tall, very, very good looking blonde guy with really blue eyes. And he was like literally effing ethereal. Okay. He was just, oh my, I swear to you, I have looked on Pinterest. I have looked all over the web for 15 friggin' years looking for anybody that looks similar to this person, and they don't exist. So what the F goes on there? So, I mean, I've seen guys that look kind of like, okay, well, the eyes are kind of like that, but the hair color's wrong, or what, it's just like, I've looked over and over to try to like show it to my, my son, as well as, his dad and stuff, to point out like, okay, this is like what he looks like. Because when I started having these dreams, I was literally sharing it with, my son's dad and saying, hey, this is what's happening. He's like, damn, that's some good shit. That sounds like a story. And I'm like, well, it's happening, recurring. Like, he's constantly with me in my dreams, and this is what's happening. And, he's like protective of me. And it's like, I know him, it's like driving me crazy. And he had an accent. Okay. And I was like, okay, I know this accent, but I don't know this accent because I grew up in Southern California. So I heard a lot of different accents growing up, because back when I was living there, it was very diverse. I don't think it's as diverse anymore, but, there's still a lot of diversity there. But it's like, this wasn't an accent that I heard on a normal basis. Okay. It wasn't a common one that was around there, because we had, it's Southern California. It's like you get all these different Hispanic accents from all different Hispanic countries. I heard a lot of Japanese accents. I heard a lot of Korean. I heard, Brazilian a lot. So, which is Portuguese. So it's like, that's what I heard normally. I didn't hear a whole lot of British, or excuse me, I heard British, but I didn't hear a whole lot of other European accents very often. Okay. So I kept trying to figure out what the hell is his accent. It's driving me nuts because I know it, it sounds almost kind of Swedish-ish. I finally figured it out. So, he would just be coming to me all the time in my dreams. And then there was this other guy that would show up, and he would be telling me, and when he would see me, it's like his eyes would just light up. And, he had really blue eyes like my blondie. But he would be freaking out when he would see me. It was almost like he would get excited. He's like, you have to meet my son. You have to meet my son. And I'm like, who's your son? And every time I'd ask that, I'd friggin' wake up. Of course, right? Of course. Fucking, I hate that. So, my blondie, he would just keep showing up, and it was every damn night he was with me, and he was taking me around and showing me things and teaching me things, and he would get closer and closer and more romantic-y with me as time went on here. Okay. So, we basically ended up I didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't understand. It's like, it was so odd and so random and so weird. It's like, what is the deal with this blonde guy? Because I've never been attracted to blonde guys, like I said. So, there was only one time I was, okay? I'm not going to lie. There was one time I was attracted to a blonde guy, and I actually lived with him, okay? So, I forgot about that. How can I forget about that? But that was a very weird relationship, and that that was like, I'm not even going to get into that, okay? So, and he was not Scandinavian, by the way. He was Irish. So, anyway, okay. So this guy kept coming to me, and so then, like, I remember, like, feeling like I had to get back in touch with my witchy roots, okay? Because I've always been identified as being a witch. Even when I was very small, like even when I was messing around and playing with one of my best friends, it's like we literally would call ourselves witches and stuff. And, we were all into that, and we would go to the library to try to find books on it and stuff, but they never had any, or they were checked out or whatever. So it kind of pissed me off. So I would go through these time periods where I'd get really into it, and then I would just kind of forget about it because my life would be distracted or something, with what was going on. So anyways, I started to feel like I needed to get back into it because my blondie, which, by the way, didn't have a name yet, because I would never get his name, or I would ask and it would never be told to me. So basically what ended up happening was I ended up going to a bookshop, because this is when I lived in Northern California, and it was like a metaphysical type bookshop. And they had a poster in there for a festival that was going on for Beltane. And they were going to do, it was like there was all these vendors going to be there, and there was all this entertainment, and they were going to do a huge ass maypole. So I was like, yes, we're going to this. Hell yes. And I just felt like immediately when I saw this, I had to go. I have to go to this. It's like, no matter what, come hell or high water, I don't give a shit what's going on. I have to be at this. So, I kept having my dreams. They kept getting stronger and more intense. And I was getting like so hooked on this guy. It was crazy. So, I felt like I craved him at night, like just to be around him. So it was weird. It was really intense. So we ended up going to the freaking Beltane Festival. And it's just a shit ton of pagans and witches, okay? And like it was so cool because there's like people from like all walks of life there. It was just really awesome. They had the best music, and it was like all different kinds of music from all over the world. They had belly dancers there. It was really cool. And this maypole they had constructed was effing huge. And it's really weird. Before the festival happened, for like days on end, it just rained and rained and rained and rained. And then on Beltane, it cleared up. It was beautiful that day. It was blue skies, beautiful fluffy white clouds, and it was so green, and it was so beautiful. There's like rolling hills all around. It was just gorgeous. So it was just like an epic day to begin with. So we end up, just hanging out, and we're drinking beer and having a good time, whatever. And it came time to do the maypole. So I was like kind of shy, being an introvert. I'm like, I'm just going to sit out here. But, Ciara was there, and she just jumped up, and she's like, let's do this shit. And she just ran up there, and she was going to join in the maypole. So she's literally standing next to 3 high priestess chicks, okay?
I still have memory
the
about
chicks
that
were running the show, and they are high priestesses, okay? And, powerful witch chicks. So I was like, oh my God, this is, because like, they formed the big old circle around it, and it was just like hundreds of people.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many people, just like hundreds. And I'm just sitting on the outskirts, and I'm sitting there looking at this spot, because everybody has to join hands, because we form a circle, and everybody holds hands, and then they put the intention out there, and then everybody grabs, the ribbons, and they start doing the maypole dance. So she was literally saying, for anybody who wants fertility in their life, or who is looking to get pregnant, please go to the center and stand next to the pole, okay? And we're going to focus all of our intention towards the pole, right? Because that's the fertility of it. It's representing the man going into the woman, which is the pole piercing the earth, okay? And the earth is the female, and the pole is the masculine, right? So I'm just like, oh shit, because like that's what everybody's focusing their intention on. Okay. There's like hundreds of witches and pagans and, whatever you identify with, they were there. And this is what everybody's focusing on. So there was this little empty spot and it was open and everybody's joined hands and it's next to Ciara. It's between Ciara and was it between you and the priestess or just a stranger? I can't remember.
I just have the distinct memory of the one who was on my right.
Yeah. So there's this empty spot and for some reason it was just like this urge came into me and I'm like, no. I have to go. I have to do this right now. So like, it was like literally like this weird, intense, like feeling in my gut, like go now. And so I was like, okay. So I like jumped up and I ran over there and I filled the empty spot. So basically I jumped up. Sorry, we had a technical difficulty yet again. So I'm getting back into my story here. So I jumped up and we started to do the whole maypole dance thing, right? So we're getting closer. It was just really cool. I'd never done something like that before, and so it was like hundreds of people doing this giant, it was huge maypole. And we're getting tighter and tighter. And as you get tighter and tighter, like where it's the weaving is going down the pole, people are getting closer and closer to one another. Okay. So you're brushing up against people and people are laughing and having a good time and just, it's fun. And so we get to the end of the pole, the end of the freaking line. And guess who's at the friggin' middle of the whole entire damn thing? Me. I am the one I ended up at the very end of the thing. I'm in the middle, right next to the pole. And that's when, the priestesses, they yelled, okay, everybody down. And now it's time to project our energy. So everybody like knelt down to the ground and everybody's arms were out. And we were forming this giant, like, what would you say? Like almost like a giant flower on the ground with everybody's arms. And you were just touching the person in front of you and projecting the energy. And of course, my hands are on the damn pole. And I'm like right next to the pole at the base of the pole. And everybody is just projecting all that into me. So I was like, well, shit. I guess I was picked and I was supposed to be here in the middle for whatever reason. And let me tell you, at that time, I was not looking to have any children. Okay. I was just like, nope, no kids for me. No. Using contraception, the whole 9 yards. So, kept having my dreams and they were getting, really more vivid and more sexual on top of it, which was in turn making me more sexual. And, I was pretty much, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I was just like all over my man, like constantly, just like I couldn't handle not being near him. So, long story short, even though we were using, contraception and stuff, I ended up pregnant. Okay. Still, and we were practicing, contraception for many years and never had any slip ups, nothing wrong. And then boom, I'm pregnant. And it's like, it's weird because I didn't even know I was pregnant because I felt freaking amazing. I didn't feel bad, no nausea, no pukey feelings, no morning sickness, none of that shit. And, I was just like really friggin' happy all the freaking time. So I realized, hey, I missed my period. What the hell's going on here? And so I went to the store because I called my gynecologist at the time and I said, hey, do I need to come in there to do a pregnancy test or anything? And she's like, no, just piss on a stick. So I did, and it came up positive. And I was like blown away because this was a surprise. And it's like, how the hell did this happen? Danced around a fucking maypole.
Meant to be.
Yep.
Dancing around the maypole.
Prayer has spoken.
It's no
and
joke.
Literally, I kid my son all the time saying that he's the son of Freyr. And he's just like, because come on, who else was a freaking blondie, right? Well, so I had to pick out a name. And it's kind of funny because from the get-go, I'm like, oh, this is a boy. I know it's a boy. I can feel it's a boy. I feel freaking great. I have an appetite. And I started craving the most weird ass shit. And I realized I started craving a lot of Northern European food. And, I didn't understand why I was craving it. It was just weird. It's like, I just what I wanted to eat. So I ate a lot of that, and I ate a lot of chocolate. I really badly wanted to eat sushi too, but I was told no because
Too
it's
much
raw.
mercury.
It's raw seafood and it's just dangerous. So anyway, so basically I'm like, okay, I have to come up with a name. And, I wouldn't even look at girl names. I was just like, it's not a girl. I just know it's a boy. So I just was looking. And so, I kept having my dreams of my blondie. And I'm like, what is your name? And he would not tell me it. So I was like, God damn it. I really want to know what the name is. So I started looking up things, and I literally started doing research online, and I started listening to language CDs and stuff, trying to figure out exactly what language, the accent came from that he was speaking in. So I basically narrowed it down to Norwegian or some kind of Swedish. I mean, this is too obvious, but there's also Iceland too as well, but it didn't sound Icelandic. It sounded more Norwegian. But, they're kind of like similar. I mean, it could have been old, who knows? So, I started looking up names, and I started looking through, I looked every day at boy names and stuff. And then I came across this website, and it was, this was like a while ago. They have way more really cool stuff out there now, but back then it's like they didn't have, as much cool stuff as they do now. So, basically I came across the name Soren, and I was like, holy shit, that's it. And I was like, I just immediately fell in love with that name so much. I was like, oh my God, that's the name. And it just like made my heart sing, and it made me have butterflies in my stomach. I'm like, that is the name. That's the name. That's his name. And so, if depending on what source you look at, which actually is like Danish, and Norwegian are the two main places, more Denmark than Norway, but Denmark and Norway were all one thing at one point. So basically I was like, that's the name I want. And then later, to come up with his middle name, I was actually watching the X Games and it was a pro skater from Denmark, and he had the name Rune, and I was like, oh my God, I fucking love that name. Yes, that's his middle name. So that's my son's name, is Soren Rune. So it's really weird because I, had the baby, went through the birth process and all that stuff, and he was 9 pounds. And I'm not a very big person, so that was a lot of weight to carry around. He used to kick the shit out of me at night. Whenever I'd go to sleep, like around 10:30, he would just start karate chopping me with his, legs, which is kind of funny because he is a martial artist now. He was just kicking, and he was very powerful and very strong in there. I mean, to the point where I'd be in tears because it was like so painful, because he was beating the shit out of me in there, because he's like, hey mom, it's too goddamn cramped in here. Get bigger or something. So I was glad to finally give birth, because I had all this weight sitting out in front of me, but there was no weight anywhere else really on me, because he was literally eating me alive. So when I had him, he was 9 pounds. He had like red hair pretty much. And he was very, very, very long. Okay. He was very long. He just kept coming. And we sent out birth announcements. And his dad is not super close with his mom or anything, so he doesn't really know that much about her family. But she is blonde, and she's tall. And when we set out the birth announcements, we sent it to her and stuff like that. And her whole family was tripping. They were like, what the hell? How the hell did you come up with this name? How did you pick this name? That's our great grandfather's name. I was like, what? And yeah, so basically she ended up making a quilt, which she sent to us, that had like all ancestor pictures on them, and like family pictures, and Soren is on there on this quilt. And it's not a very clear picture or anything like that. He looks on the taller side, definitely. He doesn't look like my guy in my dream, but the point is, he was from friggin' Norway. And he's tall, and his name was Soren. So it's like, oh, what the fuck? So yes, that happened to me. My son was obviously meant to be. When he came out, he knows all this stuff. He's incredibly intelligent. He learns really friggin' fast. He's 15 and he's about to graduate from high school and start college already. So, my cautionary tale to people out there, if you don't want to end up pregnant, don't dance around a maypole with a bunch of freaking witches at Beltane. If you want to get pregnant, I highly recommend it. It works, okay? Especially if you're having dreams of hot blonde men in your dreams, okay? So basically, I had always, like, after that and around that time period, I also was having like hints of Viking stuff that was coming through like really strong. And, I just like know shit and found, things familiar from that time period and stuff. So I feel that in a past life, definitely I was attached to, this blonde, tall hunk of man and, that time period for some reason. So I feel very connected to that. It makes me feel very comfortable. It's like when I listen to the language and somebody's speaking it, it just feels right. I also love Faroese, which is interesting because that's an island off the coast right there. And if you've ever listened to that language, it's like a mixture of Irish and Old Norse, I guess. It's really freaking beautiful language. So those two languages like just do it for me. When I hear them, I'm like, oh yes. It's like I felt like I was very connected. And I do have a faint memory of being a female then as well and dying. I remember dying in a bed and I had my loved ones around me and I know exactly what it looked like. I was like in a longhouse and it was by a body of water. That's what I remember. And there was mountains around and I was dying and that's what it looked like. And I was really sad to say bye to my family. I knew that I was very connected and very close to them and I loved them very much. And it was just not a happy thing to remember dying. And like, when you remember stuff like that, it can be very emotional. And for some reason, the subject of forgiveness is constantly coming up for me for certain situations. Like, literally when I do tarot card pulls and stuff, it's like for myself or if Ciara does them, forgiveness is like a thing that constantly comes up. So I feel like there is guilt from past lives that has carried over for certain situations. And it's like, what do I need to forgive? Because it's kind of frustrating because I'm like, what specifically, And I am very hard on myself when it comes to certain things. So maybe that's part of it. But it's just weird how, that whole situation worked out. So there's my connection to that, and then, I'm with a man who, has that ancestry. It's just a trip. Okay. It's weird. So, as for the Japan thing, the whole warrior thing, yeah, I get that distinct vibe off Ciara all the time. She's like a freaking pit bull, okay? When you piss her off.
Which is funny because I'm sure a lot of people, when they meet me or they talk to me, probably get a completely different impression off me. But it's just, I'm going to now in the future just blame it on my Cancer rising. Because that's just what it is. That tough outer shell of the crab, that you got to get past first before you get all to the weird shit.
But it's kind of funny too because this is weird, and I feel like our family has been together multiple lifetimes for sure, because of the things that we're all attracted to too.
And also, I think that me and my twin, we had past lives, not just that one in particular in Japan, but also other ones where we were like actually sisters.
Yes,
in some other place, probably I don't know,
Europe.
Europe,
south of France. Mm-hmm. I get like around the Mediterranean, like that
time
side.
Period. It's not super old time period.
Art Nouveau time period.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. And I remember, because I get these really, really strong feelings about that, and I'm very, very attracted to Art Nouveau time period. I'm like kind of obsessed with it.
I love that art.
And it's like, I remember buying a painting, and it's literally hanging over there on the wall of this beautiful, like, it looks like maybe Italy or the south of France. And it's this beautiful, like, you know, mountainy type cliffy area with all these buildings on it. And it's sitting over like a bay, a body of water. And there are two women in the picture, like very small. And they're sitting next to each other. And one has light blue on and one has pink on. And I just like was obsessed with this photo. And it just like, it made me feel melancholy looking at it. And I really, really, it's not a photo, it's a painting.
Yeah, it's a painting.
But it's just, it's beautiful. And I'm like, I want this because I feel like this is me and my sister kind of feeling, you know, and it just reminds me of a happier time. And it's kind of weird because forever I have been all about the color pink.
And I've been all about the color of like light blue, aqua blue.
Yeah.
And that's been our thing. It's like she gets the pink stuff, I'll get the blue stuff.
Yeah, totally. So that's kind of weird right there too. But as for the Japan thing, I'm going to get back to this again. I got to say it already, damn it. I am like obsessed with katanas, okay? I fucking love them. I love the way they look. Yeah, okay. And it's like kind of funny because my man's out there slicing with one all the damn time, practicing with them. It's kind of funny because my son does not like using them. That's not his weapon of choice or whatever. But it's like when we went to their martial arts master is what he is technically. We went to, he had like a thing because he was talking about how he considers us his family and how I found him, by the way. And it's the way I found this man is completely fucking trippy. Okay, because, you know, my son wanted to take martial arts and I was very, very picky and very adamant about who would be teaching him because I didn't want just some Joe Schmo teaching him this stuff. I wanted him to have actual history and teachings and learn the body and stuff behind it. So I kept driving past this one place when I would take him to his violin lesson, and it was just this little kind of like secluded little place, and I noticed a sign and I was like, oh my gosh, look, there's a place right there. And he was like, no, not that place, you know, just, you know, they don't even have a website really or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe that's because it's legit, you know, so let's go check it out. So we finally went around to walking into the studio. And I mean, this is like a fucking temple. It's not even, you know, it's not typical of what I was used to seeing at all. And the man that was in there, turns out he is, I can't even remember. I don't even know if I should say this. No, I'm not going to. Okay. I can't. But let me just put it this way. We had to go through background checks to even be taught by this man. Okay. And on the wall, in the thing, he had like a thing for the family. He calls us his family. And we went in there and it's like he has a shit ton of katanas all over the wall. So I was just like freaking out when I saw this. I was like, oh my God, yes. And so I like walk over and I'm like, can I touch them, please? And he's like, he just grabs my wrist and he just slaps my hand on one of them. And I was like, damn. And the one I was touching was like over 1,000 years old that belonged to his family. And it was fucking beautiful. And I was just like touching it and I was getting totally creeped out by it, but like not in a bad way. And I was like, this thing has been through many people. I'm like, oh my God, I'm touching something that has wiped out several people probably over 1,000 years ago. Holy shit. And there were ones in there that were even older than that. So it's like, that was pretty fucking awesome to do. So, but I am like really obsessed with that. And if you follow me on Instagram, you probably have seen me posting shit about this. Okay. So that just like, I am so obsessed with that. And I think it's because there was somebody in my life who wielded one of those very well. And it just like, I thought they were badass and totally hot. So it's just like how I feel about it, you know, and the whole way that they dress and everything, you know, from ancient times is just like, to me, I just get all excited when I see that. It's just like, oh my God, it just feels like home, like it's comfortable or something. It's really interesting. So that's my memory of that. And it's just like, yes, please. And I remember like really beautiful gardens, something to do with gardens. I don't know.
I also think that I might have had a past life, potentially, maybe not on Earth, but somewhere else where it was predominantly water and predominantly like salt water, because I personally feel
Atlantis.
very, very at home in salt water,
Yeah.
not fresh water. I fucking hate swimming in fresh water because how I like to swim, I don't like to swim on the surface. I like to be under the water, holding my breath or whatever. That is how I like to swim in water. And so I just, for some reason, in salt water, I can do it way better than I can in fresh water. I don't know.
I still can't believe you are not certified scuba diver yet.
I know.
That's redonkulous.
I actually didn't officially learn how to swim until 2008 or 9, which is really funny. But I was in water a couple different times.
How about when we were in Florida?
Oh, Florida's amazing.
Yeah, like we went to Marathon Key, okay? And we went out to Sombrero Reef.
Oh, that reef is amazing.
And it's like her and I were holding hands in the water, swimming through the water. We were snorkeling. We weren't scuba diving. But my man was down there in the scuba, and he was like down, or was he free diving or was he scuba?
He was free diving.
Dude, he can hold his breath a long time. Okay,
I can hold my breath a decent amount.
So he's down there at the bottom, and he's swimming with all the. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been to Hawaii. Okay, and you know
the water was clearer here than it was in Hawaii.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing, and I think that Shark's Cove was really beautiful. And there's different types of fish there, but I have never seen so much color and so many damn fish in all my life than there was at Sombrero Reef.
The funniest part of that was, of course, in Marathon Key and around the Keys in general, there's a lot of barracuda fish.
Oh yeah,
and if you're not aware, barracuda have this, reputation for being very aggressive, attacking people. But a lot of people don't understand why they attack, and it's because they're attracted to shiny surfaces. They're attracted to shiny things. So a lot of times when people get attacked when they're diving or something, it's because they have something very bright or shiny on them, whether it's a watch or maybe, whatever it could be. So we're swimming, and I realized that I have this ring that I always wear on my pinky, and sure enough, I remembered I had it on, and I was literally like less than 12 inches away from this barracuda. Yeah. I was just like, we're like, oh crap, under the water, like freaking out, like shit, fuck, it's right there.
And I think I had some crap on my bikini that was, I can't remember which one I was wearing.
You had to be very careful about, because you brought bikinis with you that had like
they look
sparkly,
like friggin' lures and stuff. Yeah, the tassels on the side.
Yep.
So it's like, shit. Why did I do
funny.
this?
You didn't think about the barracudas.
No, I didn't. It's kind of funny because when we pulled in on the boat, it's like we rented a boat, and when we pulled in the boat, it's just as we're pulling in, there's a big ass shark, and it was just like right there at the surface. It was swimming along, and I'm not sure what kind of shark it was.
Oh, when we were riding up, that was a reef shark.
Yeah, it was bailing because it was like there was too many people.
Yeah,
so.
the shark again.
They don't want to hurt people. They don't.
Another misconception that people have is about sharks. They think that there's so many shark attacks that happen, but literally there's a million statistics that you're more likely to die in the bathtub than you are from a shark attack.
Yeah, they're kind of shy. Actually,
they're not about that. They're not. There's certain shark species that are way more aggressive, and a lot of times it's not the shark species that people actually think about. Most people think, oh, great white shark, super aggressive. Yeah, in mating season, sure. But really, the more aggressive sharks you have to worry about is something like a tiger shark or a mako shark.
Yeah, they have a mako
certain
right
reef
here
sharks
in the damn Chesapeake Bay. I was like, what?
You don't want to mess with a mako shark because they are literally the fastest shark in the ocean. They come out of nowhere. They're amazingly fast.
I still can't believe that video footage because when I think of makos, I just think of like tropical. I don't think of Chesapeake Bay,
I think
Virginia,
of Australia.
Okay? Yeah, I think of like places like that, like the Pacific. I don't think of the Atlantic Ocean. Yet on this cam, on a fisherman's, because there's a lot of watermen around here, okay? I mean, because it's like literally, we're kind of like Stockholm around here, where it's like, we're surrounded by fucking water, all right? We've got rivers and waterways all around us constantly, okay? And it's like, there's a fucking mako shark. And it's totally coming up on this cam, the fisherman cam, because he has like a cam on the bottom of his boat out on the Chesapeake. And this thing just came out of nowhere like a bat out of hell. And it was like attacking the bait that he had. And it was so friggin' big and scary as hell. And I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. I was freaking the fuck out because we go in the water all the time there. And we're constantly swimming and just messing around in the water. And they like warmer, don't they like warmer, shallower water?
Kind of, yeah. It just depends.
Which scared the crap out of me. And I was like, Jesus. But luckily where we go, there's lots of dolphins. So,
yeah, there are a lot of dolphins. There's a lot of rays as well. We haven't really seen sharks yet around there.
I don't want to see sharks around there.
Although I'll never forget that one time we were coming off the boat. There's a little ladder on the boat that you use to get down, and we were right there by the sandbar, and it was pretty shallow, but I'm going down the bars, and the water's murky here, okay? The water is very, very rarely clear enough to see anything, and so stepping down in this murky water, I put
terrifying.
My foot down off the last rung on the ladder, and my foot touched on this fuzzy, it felt hairy thing that rippled, and I just like screamed and jumped back up because I still to this day have no idea.
That's weird because a ray is not like that. They're
No,
like silky.
and it's like there's not, in that specific area, there's not really any like clumps of seagrass or anything like that that would move or feel like that.
That's like
so
when
I'm
you
just
say
like,
something that feels hairy like that. When I was in Florida with my man, we were in near Clearwater. South of Clearwater, I think. Yes. I can't remember where the hell we were. Jesus. Anyway, I was in the water with him and we were messing around, and all of a sudden this ginormous thing brushed against my leg, and it felt like kind of hairy and stubbly, and it was a manatee, and it like literally rubbed up against me. But I was literally like at that moment joking about sharks. And this giant thing just goes poof and like brushed against my leg, and I screamed so loud.
Poor manatee.
And I felt so bad. I'm like, shit, it was a manatee, damn it, you know? Because I would have been like trying to follow it if it was a friggin' manatee, you know?
They're so chill.
I know, they're so
great.
mellow. But this manatee, that was like I think like the second day we were there, they completely like it like that was like its hangout. And it was a male, and it was a big bull, and he just would be like chilling, and he was just like would go up and down the coast at certain times right there. Like from our room, which was like on the, you know, the very top floor, we could see down, and you could literally watch him swimming through the water at exactly the same time every day. It was kind of a trip. So, but anyway, back to the past life stuff. We're talking about sea life here. What the hell?
So off track.
I know.
Welcome to this podcast. That's what this is going to be.
Oh my God.
Random ramblings. Here we go. That should be the nickname for this. Random ramblings.
Yes, no shit. So anyways, back to the past life stuff. Okay. I'm going to post a video. Okay. A link to a video here on YouTube. And it's really kind of cool. And I think it's kind of a trip because MUFON is actually who posted this video, which I find highly fascinating, because why is MUFON posting stuff about past lives? Why are they, courtesy of MUFON, sharing a video on past lives? If you don't know what MUFON is, I highly recommend you Google it to find out what it is. So anyways, in this video, a woman here, named Carol is doing this, and she is like big on you know, past life stuff. Carol Bowman. Okay, she's actually presented by Carol Bowman at Mainline MUFON. For more information, please visit blah 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 blah, and there's the information, right? So this video says young children sometimes report details of a previous life which upon checking turn out to be accurate, and which they could not have known about in any other way other than reincarnation. This reveals overwhelming evidence of past life memories in children. Not only are such experiences real, they are far more common than people realize. The interesting thing is that 100% of subjects who report past life remembrance are children. They can happen at any time, to any very young child, but parents often don't notice because they don't know it's possible and don't know what to look for. Now, if you go read the comments under this video too, it's pretty friggin' amazing because all these people are sharing different experiences they've had. But I this one popped out to me and it really kind of pissed me off, all right? It says, early Christianity taught reincarnation until a pope around the 10th century outlawed its teachings. Now, I haven't done any freaking research on this yet, but I plan on it, and that sounds like it's probably pretty fucking accurate. But considering, because whoever was in power at the time, they used their religion to try to control people and to promote whatever agenda they had in, this is what people don't realize, okay? They used religion for thousands of years to promote their political agendas.
Not to mention that religion was also used as a way to keep people
controlled.
Yeah, because there was monks
Threats.
who got in trouble for wanting to teach people how to read the Bible. Like, how are you supposed to
friggin'
have
Bible?
people, follow the word of God if they can actually read the word of God from themselves? So
Yep.
that is a legit thing that happened in history. You can read about it, because I remember reading about it in, I think, more than just general history, but in specifically art history, because
you learn a lot about this in art history, definitely.
Because
that's what they painted. It's like the whole religion, the Renaissance and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of that is all focused on religion. I mean, look at Michelangelo and Da Vinci and all that. It's very
even before that
Yeah.
too. I mean, just what the monks created when there were, because all books had to be handmade, and so all of it was illuminated manuscripts. If you look that up, that is what a lot of monks did, and so it's just like this very intricate, beautiful artworks of these texts. So again, a lot of people overlook art history or art in general as like, oh, it's just something pretty, but no, it's actually a record of history, because
it is
what stays with a person. It's either written words or it's an image.
Yep.
An image. What is it? The saying, an image can speak.
Pictures worth 1,000 words. Or
pictures worth 1,000 words. Exactly.
Yeah. So basically, in this video, they're talking about the research done by Dr. Ian Stevenson, I think. And he taught at University of Virginia, and he has 45 years of research into past life cases. And he's been all over the world to places like India, Thailand, and Burma, and all different other places. And he actually researched past lives. So he went all over the world, recording different stories and things. And they have a lot of things in common. In this video, they touch on kids today, even some children who perished, who in past lives, they perished during the 9/11 attacks, the trade towers. There's an incident of that. There's a child in there he's much older now, but he can remember going down in a plane in World War II. The Navy actually took him out on a ship to point out where the plane went down, and he showed them where it was, and they found it. Okay, you guys? So I highly recommend you watch this video. It is fantastic. It will blow your friggin' mind. And I will post a link down underneath this video here. Is there anything else you want to add?
I would say if you want to explore your own idea about past lives, however, again, trust your gut, trust your instincts. If there's something that
stands out
to you,
it's just weird and you can't understand why you like something,
or why you even think about it, or you have like certain weird kind of like tics that don't really make sense to experiences, especially that you've had in this life, don't discredit it, because that's a lot of where I feel like I get my past life experience is just like these very odd things that resonate in strange ways. I would love to go through my own kind of like past life regression with somebody who knows what they're doing, because that would be absolutely fascinating to know what kind of information would come up. Although I have maybe some inklings of maybe certain situations that would maybe pop up there. But yeah, I would just say, make sure you just do your own research. I mean, there's no harm in seeking out answers for yourself, and consider all the different sources, weigh all the information, but don't like pick one site and think that that's everything. Make sure you always have multiple sources. I went to college. Check your sources. Have multiple sources.
She went to a very good college, okay? That they're very all about the research. They make you go research.
Well, it's a research college.
It is a research college. I mean, that's all you do there. So, yeah, I mean, seriously, whatever. I would love to hear your guys' opinions and stories in the comments below. Please leave a comment. I mean, I look at all the comments. You know, I might not answer like immediately right away because I do have a life and I have things I need to get done and projects I'm working on. But please do. I would love to hear your stories. I never discredit people for what they have to, you know, share, because we're all unique and we're all one, but we're all unique at the same time, which is really kind of cool. And we do have our little, you know, groups that we fit into or whatnot, but we are all one, and we each have our own special talent that we bring to the table that, you know, helps develop and make humanity a beautiful thing. So please do share. I'd love to hear your stories or your thoughts on past lives and what you feel or of what you have experienced. Yeah. So
thank you all so much for listening to us
ramble
on and
exactly.
ramble on. And
yep.
We will see you for the next one.
Yes. Thank you so much. You guys are beautiful souls. Take care until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.